in our last series we've been talking a bit about like different types of physical activity, and we've gone over some myths and conceptions about that. Do you hear any myths and conceptions about diet and nutrition that you think need addressed?
Yes, there are so many myths and misconceptions about diet, particularly conveyed by the media and people who want to sell you things. There's always this desire of companies with a product to make you believe that you need their product for some reason so that you'll buy it. And so their advertising around that tends to create whatever kind of perception that they can among the public that this is what's missing from your life. If you just get this, everything will be solved. And so, yeah, a lot of the kind of misinformation that we have around diet tends to come from those kind of sources.
Okay, just following on from that, what do you think of these so-called weight loss diets that are becoming more and more common? You know, the sort of crash diets that you hear about, you see in magazines and things like that. And do you think they work?
Well, that's a good question. In the short term, yes, they work. If you don't eat, you will probably lose some weight. The question I always like to ask about a diet when I'm evaluating whether or not that's worth doing is that there are two questions actually. Is it adequate? And by adequate, I mean, are you getting all of these kind of recommendations? Are you getting foods from each of the food groups? And is it adequate in terms of the macronutrients, meaning the carbohydrate, protein, and fat? And is it adequate in terms of the micronutrients, all of the vitamins and minerals that you need? The next question that you also have to ask, and possibly easier to answer, is it a sustainable way of eating? And if you cannot answer yes to that, is it a sustainable lifestyle, then what's the point? Because whether or not you're going to lose weight in the short term, yes, you might be able to go on a crash diet for a week or two and lose weight, but if it's not a sustainable way of life, then what's the point beyond a week or two? You need to find something that you can build into a lifestyle pattern that will end up giving you the long-term health benefits that really should be coming from a diet.
So you've summarised pretty well what you think about weight loss diets. There's starting to be a lot more diverse diets coming out and more lifestyle kind of changes rather than diets. One example is gluten-free diets. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think first of all it's important to define what is gluten. A lot of people say I'm on a gluten-free diet without even understanding what gluten really is or what it does. Gluten is essentially just a protein that is found in wheat, barley, and rye. And about 1% of the population, maybe if that, are diagnosable as gluten intolerant or having celiac disease. And so for the rest of the population, avoiding gluten isn't necessarily going to benefit your health. It's very popular now to try and do that or to eat gluten-free products because there's this conception that for some reason it's better than your health. A lot of the evidence now that we have around that health benefits for people who don't have gluten intolerance, a lot of the evidence is anecdotal. And so you get people with blogs saying this changed my life, etc., etc. That's not real scientific evidence. And until we have that, it's not clearly beneficial to exclude gluten from your diet. There's not only anecdotal evidence, but again, gluten-free products now are a huge part of the diet market and a huge piece of sales for a lot of companies. And so to the extent that they can promote that and make you believe that it's going to be healthier, they absolutely will try to capitalize on that.
So something related, similar to the gluten-free kind of phenomenon that's happening is vegan diets. And there is some scientific evidence out there to suggest they have health benefits, and there's also stuff that says they have little benefit. So it's kind of a contentious issue at the moment. Do you have any thoughts on the vegan diet lifestyle?
Yeah, actually, there is quite a lot of evidence that limiting animal products in your diet certainly can have some health benefits. People who tend to follow a vegan or vegetarian diet do tend to have better health, and it's really difficult to separate out why that is, because a lot of them tend to be more health conscious in other areas of their life anyway. So that evidence is a little bit difficult to separate out. I would say it's completely possible to have a vegan diet and get all of the nutrients that you need and live a healthy life still. The thing is, as you're excluding more food groups, so thinking about this Eat Well plate, again, the NHS has included each of these food groups because specific nutrients are very common in those groups of foods, and as soon as you exclude one group completely, you have to be worried about, well, where am I going to get those nutrients that were coming from that food group then? Classic case is now in vegan diets where you exclude all kinds of animal products, the meat group and the milk group. So think about, where are you going to get protein now, for example? That can come, instead of from meat, it can come from beans, peas, lentils, those kind of things. From tofu would be a good source. In terms of the dairy products, thinking about where you're going to get your calcium and your vitamin D, you can find that typically in fortified soya products. It's not, it doesn't occur naturally there, but a lot of soya products nowadays, because they're meant to replace the dairy products, they're fortified with those same nutrients that were in there. It's just important to think about, the more things that you exclude from your diet, the more attention you have to pay to where am I going to get those nutrients. And it's completely possible as long as you take a bit more care. And what a lot of people tend to do now is say, oh, I'm having a vegan diet and that means a bag of crisps and some soda. Yes, those don't contain any animal products, but that's what we would call like a junk food vegetarian, and that's clearly not healthy. That's not what is meant by a wholesome vegan diet.
Why have our diets changed so much over the last few generations if we look back to what our grandparents ate compared to what we eat nowadays and what food's available nowadays? It's changed a lot in general, especially in the Western world. And do you think this is having an effect on our health? Absolutely.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing to think about what our grandparents ate. The world back then was not as global as it is now, so the range of foods that we have today, you can go into a supermarket and get bananas. Think about that. Where do bananas come from? They're not grown here in the UK. You can get pretty much anything at any time of year, whenever you fancy. And just several generations ago, that was really not common. People ate a much more locally based diet, much more seasonal diet, and what was really available. And so that tended to be what was produced agriculturally nearby. Nowadays, we need everything to be convenient. Our lifestyles have changed so much that everything needs to be ready right now, convenient, and I don't want to have to think about anything, just stuff my face while I'm doing something else more important. So kind of the focus on food too, the attention and kind of reverence that we have for a mealtime has really changed. So it's been a whole culture shift, and that has had a lot of negative impacts, certainly, on our diet, and you can see that in all of the processed foods that we eat, all of the stuff that needs to be full of salt and sugar to extend the shelf life, not just salt and sugar, but preservatives as well, to extend the shelf life that it spends in the supermarket, then in your freezer, straight into the microwave, and so that you can eat it, to support that lifestyle that we've created for ourselves now.